My name is Patrick O'Malley, emergency physician and founder of the ShiftChange community. And today I am really excited to introduce to you Chuck Shaver. Some of you have been on webinars with Chuck in the past. He's also a member of the ShiftChange community, so it's a great way for you to be able to connect directly with him there. But Chuck is a bona fide LinkedIn expert, and I had connected with Chuck probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. I'd been on LinkedIn for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, but have never really put any work and effort into my profile. So I partnered with Chuck, paid him to go through, update, and optimize my LinkedIn profile, and am incredibly happy with the results. So I invited Chuck to be a member of the Shift Change community and asked him if he would be kind enough to do another webinar for us today. He kindly agreed to do so. So Chuck, we'll turn it over to you. Would love to hear a little bit of your story and your background, and also to share your services with us and let us know how we can, get in touch with you and benefit from your expertise. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate it. Can everyone hear me okay? I believe so. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, we've got a smaller group today, so what I like to do when it's a smaller group is get through the death by PowerPoint as soon as possible and jump right into maybe some live demonstration and answering direct questions and things of that nature. But I can start out with a little PowerPoint that starts out about who I am and jump into that. If I will do a share screen and I will start here. Slideshow from the beginning. All right, can you see my big ugly mug there on the screen on my deck? Okay, so who am I? My background is in technology sales. That's been most of my career, 25 years in technology sales, 16 years plus. I've been leveraging LinkedIn as a prospecting tool and to brand myself and to draw in business. And the last 8 years, I've been gone full time teaching businesses and individuals how to use LinkedIn, helping them with profile optimization and things of that nature. So I've been active on the platform for the last decade. Last year, I had over 1 million impressions. So that is an impression is any view or like or comment, but have been over 25,000. That's 3,000 impressions, views, if you will, and 71 daily comments or likes.
So Chuck, just to let you know, we cannot see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I shared. It says,
Okay, so my screen is still, it's got a green highlight around it, and it's not letting me unshare.
I could see it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've got Chuck slides. Okay,
I'll do you.
oh, you
Okay,
do.
all right.
I
Okay,
can
now we're
I
okay.
can
We're
see
good. I
it.
apologize.
Okay. Uh, I need to open me up back up again. All right. All right. So slides, Brian. Okay. All right. So where was I? So just talking about some of my numbers, my top post last year, 60,000, over 60,000 impressions, 357 likes. I get about 3,000 new connections each year was about my average last year. So a little over 8 daily new connections. And that's growing as I grow. I have over 20,000 connections so far. So now I'm getting closer to a 4,000 new connections a year for this year. And the people that I'm connecting to are targeted, so I'm not taking people that are all across the US and the Middle East that don't look legitimate, that are fake people that I know are maybe just trying to sell me something, but there's no value there. So I'm really uh, trying to be strategic on who I select as a connection. So, um, I have talk with everyone online from Snoop Dogg to the C-suite of LinkedIn to Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, John Chambers, the legacy CEO of Cisco, if you're familiar with that, or if you're, yeah, somebody that follows Mel Robbins. I have conversations with multiple people of celebrity status, of sports, of leaders of industry, on a regular basis. And the only reason really I do this, it's not to brag about any of this, but to show, because a lot of the people that I train are small business, single solopreneurs or large institutions where I'm focusing on the sales group. So I'm trying to show them how easy it is to open up a conversation on LinkedIn. So by pulling up people like, John Chambers, and Mel Robbins and Snoop Dogg, then people are like, okay, and if I'm being honest with myself, it's probably, their marketing person that I'm talking to more so than them who's managing their social media. But it's more along the lines of saying that if you put in the effort and you do it correctly, there's a lot of people that you can reach on this platform. So things I'm going to focus on today are the modern buyer and why LinkedIn fits into that. How do you approach LinkedIn, capabilities of your profile? The ICP I'll refer to a lot. That stands for ideal customer profile, the people you want to connect to. Defining what that is, optimizing profile basics, that ICP search, connecting, and I'll touch a little bit on posting best practices and then how to keep this whole thing running. So and it's a smaller group, so as I go along, if there's a question, feel free to chime in and just jump on the mic and ask away. This is I want this to be interactive. I'll get through these slides as quick as possible, so you can um, um, we can do some live demonstration at the end. And I can stick around and ask
So,
questions.
Chuck, there is one question
Yeah.
from one of the Dr. Ormans. How do you screen all of those connections?
I just read through their profiles personally. So if they aren't US based, that then they get a lot of scrutiny. I will look at, do they have any content out? How many connections do they have? I mean, if it's a straight up bot, it's rare that they're going to have even more than 250 connections. So right out of the chute, if they have like 60 connections and it is some young woman for the profile picture and real limited information, it's kind of a big red flag that it's a fake account. So, you know, and then if there is, well, they've got more connections than I thought. They do have some things well filled out. Do they have any content, that they have an actual picture of themselves, that they have an actual video of themselves? I'll kind of glance at that. Mine is, I focus, I'm based out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So I pretty much, my range is kind of Minneapolis to Omaha, and I'm right in about the middle of that. And so the upper Midwest is my backyard. So if you're in my backyard, most people are going to get accepted. Everyone local to Sioux Falls pretty much gets accepted, unless there's major, red flags. But the further you go out, yeah, of my market, the less likely I am to accept it. The more strategic I am of who they would have to be, and that's just from reviewing them. But there are, when you optimize a profile, there's 308 areas and settings of a profile. And if you do it right and you go through and you optimize all that, you're going to clear out probably 70% of the garbage that you're getting if you didn't touch anything. So there's a lot of filtering that you can do on the front end so they don't even reach your profile. So if there's time, I can touch on a few of those at the end here. Any other questions? Okay. Um, the modern buyer. So, why LinkedIn? What's different about the buyers today? They have much more access to information. We all do. We understand what our problems are better. We do our own research, and everyone's sick of cold outreach. So we have all sorts of tools out there. AI, we can go to Chat GPT and ask it a billion questions. Now, are we going to lay money down or our health down on that answer? No, but we can get a lot of things, aligned and figured out, and there's so many resources out there and YouTube videos on everything that we're just way more informed now. So when it comes to decision makers of people that we're going to do business with, when you talk to people in the industry, most people say the way that you get business is you either get introduced by a common person in the middle that you trust, or you post something that catches their eye. So most people are, that's why there's so much marketing going on and so many things online, and everyone's trying to sell you something or get your attention or whatever, because it works. I mean, putting information out there and advertising yourself these days is way more online. There's much more value doing it online than there was in traditional hard copy and billboard ad, campaigns kind of thing. So a lot less expense and a lot more reach and exposure, and you can target the people that you want to get in front of a lot easier. So if none of the old ways are working as well, um, you know, and cold outreach isn't working, then how are you going to get that done? And LinkedIn is one of the best for B2B growing your company. So how do you approach LinkedIn? I think that's a good place to start for a lot of people that haven't been like really vested in LinkedIn yet. So you kind of want to know where you're coming at. First, you want to define which LinkedIn user you are, and then you need to determine which LinkedIn strategy to use because there's three different silos there, and they all have a different focus and a different way to approach it. So the way I define a LinkedIn user is the beginner, novice, and semi-pro. It's too fast of a moving target, I feel, on LinkedIn to ever consider yourself a true professional because it changes practically daily. So, and nobody wants to have a full-time job of being a LinkedIn pro except for maybe me. So, but yeah, the way I would define that to kind of figure out where you are is beginner is going to be, hey, you rarely log in, but maybe once to five times a quarter. You don't have much optimized on your profile. You got less than 500 connections. You're not doing any prospecting or posting or commenting. You just have it out there. A novice is going to be somebody that's logging in, one to a few times a month. They've done some optimization to their profile. They might have 500 plus connections. And, once in a while, they'll go out and try to make some new connections. They'll do an occasional post or at least share someone else's post, and they'll like and comment from time to time when they log in. And then a semi-pro is going to be somebody that's logging in every single day. They have most of their profile optimized. They have 2,500 connections or more. They're doing strategic outbound prospecting through those connections, and they create original content and get it out several times a week. And they're always liking and commenting to keep their awareness up and to keep their reach visible. So the strategies are going to be your business brand, your advertisement, or your prospecting. So those are the three different ways to tackle LinkedIn. I, of course, recommend doing all three, but to each their own, depending on their needs. The business brand is your LinkedIn profile. So you want to look your best to make that first impression. You want to tell your story of who you help and how you help them. You want to build SEO in it. So just like a website, Microsoft owns LinkedIn. They're very powerful at getting you on that first page. So if you build out your profile right, that's going to help you get a lot more visibility than your website ever could. Include all your business contact info. Too many times people will have a personal Gmail account in there or no contact information whatsoever. And I say this is your, essentially your business presence. So if you're handing out business cards, you should also have this look like a business card for your contact information, business email, business phone number, business address, if you have a brick and mortar hard address that you're working out of, and include that all in there. And then pack it with as much valuable information as you would your website, but you can put a personal spin on it. Advertisement, that is going to be just activity. So getting active, liking or commenting other people that you are following or tracking, want to start doing business with, or that you already have a relationship with. Post content, look at other people's profiles, because if they have the paid version of any of the subscriptions, they can see who's viewed their profile. So that's that can open up a conversation. Follow people if you're not comfortable asking them for a connection quite yet, because it'll tell them that you're following them. And that's a much more passive way to make that connection. And then join groups like this, because that will introduce you to other people in different markets and expand your network. So, prospecting, that is starting conversations. So after we've defined those people and we're going after them, we want to connect with them. So connect with all your existing contacts. If you have a relationship with them, if you know them, you should be connecting with them on LinkedIn. Connect with viewers and commenters because they've made an effort to reach out to anything you've been involved in, and that's kind of low-hanging fruit. Most people are pretty receptive to you asking for a connection if they've viewed or commented on something you put out there or shared. Build lists to do outreach campaigns. Now, this is going to be more of closer to a cold outreach, but target the people that you want to grow your network towards, and you'll be able to do that. And then connect with fellow group members if they align with what you want to talk about or grow. So, capabilities, what can this profile do? It can be your online business card. It can offer the best resource to share your products and services, and it can give you access to as many contacts as you need with well over 1 billion people on LinkedIn today. And it gives you, even without a subscription, it gives you a lot of access to be able to reach out to them and open up conversations. So what it can't do is make you look your best without effort. It can't grow revenue with no or limited information and activity, and it can't make connections and set appointments for you. But all the makings are there to be able to do all of the above.
So Teresa Dolan has a question.
Hmm.
Hey, Chuck, I think this is great. Quick question, going back a slide or two with regard
Okay.
to connecting with your connecting with your contacts. Is it, starting conversations, is that just commenting on their posts or, what do you recommend? Reaching out through messaging? What's more effective? I would have to imagine that it would be actually commenting on posts that are made in order to get your own engagement up higher. But tell me about what you think.
So when I'm defining prospecting, I'm defining prospecting as essentially networking. So making connections with people. So what I mean is if you already personally know these people, you've done business with them, you've had a past with them, whether you worked at the same company or hospital or whatever, then those should be people that are in your LinkedIn network as well. If they're in your social network, if they're in your business network, if they're in your past, present, or future, then if you've already broken the ice there, then that's a good person to reach out and connect with. That's the first one. Connect with viewers and commenters is more along the lines of if if people liked a post that you put out, I go through people that comment on my posts and liked a post, and if I'm not connected to them and they fit that ICP, an easy way for me to reach out with a lighthearted message like, "Hey, hey Jane, I saw, I appreciate you liking my post about whatever the subject matter was. I noticed that we weren't connections yet, so I wanted to change that." And that's all I say. And I get about an 85% acceptance rate through that because
Okay.
I know they're on LinkedIn because they commented or liked. Um, I can see that I'm not already a level two or, that they're a level 2 or 3 connection to me. And they've actually made an effort. They've given that olive branch out there and made an effort to acknowledge my post by doing a like or a comment. So that's enough of an icebreaker that I feel confident doing that. And then my follow up to that is when they connect, I have a nice thank you message of saying, I always like to get to know my connections. If you ever want to jump on a Zoom, otherwise, welcome, to my network. And I leave it at that because I put out content. I don't need to try to, do the sales pitch or scare them off or anything like that. I just want them in my network if
Right,
they make
right.
sense to be in my network.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense.
and you can target that. I'll get into the ICP in the next section that will talk more about how to build those lists for the people that you don't have a relationship with and how to find those. So, okay. So we went through capability. All right. So that's this section. So now that you have your new what happened? Yeah, we want to start with defining our ICP. So how do you define that? You think of your favorite customers, you think of your past relationships, what makes them your favorite, um, and then you try to align those with traits that are available in the search field. Now, if you have LinkedIn Navigator, you have a lot more search fields than if you don't. But there's workarounds for the free non-subscription based LinkedIn that I can show you some tips and tricks on to make it easier for you. But basically, you start out with the basic search box. You type in a definition. Maybe it's a title, um, but then it'll pull up all these categories. Do you want to look for posts with that title or subject matter or company or jobs or groups or whatever? Typically, it's going to be people. And then those filters down are going to be connection levels, where they're located, the industry they're in. And I'll get into those. And then on top of that, if anyone's familiar with Boolean searching, that's a way to add and subtract connectors. I can show you an example of that later, but it's a way to put in multiple descriptions in a search field so you can weed out the stuff you don't want and pull in all the good stuff that you want. All right, I'm going to touch real briefly on the profile because this is real important. This is your foundation. That's your number one. How do you change a basic if you haven't done anything to optimize your profile? How do you do that? So uh, First, I always start people off with customizing your URL for SEO purposes, for visibility purposes, for share purposes. You can customize what your URL is. So by default, it's going to give you a bunch of numbers and letters after your name, which doesn't serve you well. So shorten that up. I prefer first name hyphen last name if it's available. I would grab that. I can show you where to go to edit that. And that's the first stop. Next is think about banner that's going to be visually appealing and tell what you do. So this is a major part of that first impression. So you want a banner that looks professional, that has, your brand logo in it, that's going to start to get people familiar with, your branding, what you do, and professionalism that can advertise you. So that's always going to be there 24/7. So I'll touch on if anyone does have a subscription base. One of the features that you get is you can do carousel banners. And what a carousel banner is you can add up to 5 banners and then it'll auto rotate between them. I I've had that up until last week, and then they reformatted the scroll bar. Again, get into that at the end, but I like now sticking with just one banner. And I field questions about that if anyone has questions about that. But stick with the one banner, make it look good, get some messaging in there. And then your profile picture should be in tight and clear. So make sure it's a higher resolution, a good clear picture. Don't have too distracting of a background, and bring it in tight, because 70% of the time that people are looking at your profile, they're doing it on a smartphone. So on the mobile view, and on a tiny smartphone, you want to be as visible as possible. And the more people feel that they can tell what you look like, the more comfortable they're going to be. Then we're moving down to the name. So the name is real important. Most people on this group are doctors, so that can be, you know, there's do you go with doctor first? Do you go with your certifications? Do you go with a lot of those things? I'm a big advocate on first and last name only, for SEO purposes, primarily. Also, a lot of people sometimes will use a formal name. My formal name is Charles, but if I put Charles in my LinkedIn profile and somebody goes to Google and they search for Chuck Shaver LinkedIn training, um, they're not going to see me on the first page, especially if they go just Chuck Shaver, because I put Charles in here. So the other thing is then I have to correct people that I first meet and say, yeah, don't call me Charles, call me Chuck. So there's a comfort thing there. So that's one thing. I like first and last name, no emojis, no acronyms of your certifications. Perhaps the doctor in front would be all right, but it does have to sift through the D and the R for character recognition before it gets to the beginning of your name. So depending on how popular your name is, that could hurt you. Then if you haven't already, please verify your profile. Yeah, it goes through typically Clear is what you're going to use. You can also use email through a business email if it's established business, but you take a picture of your photo, it uploads to Clear, the same one that the TSA uses in the airport. So LinkedIn doesn't have the data, Clear does. So they'll let LinkedIn know, they'll give you that badge, and then they know you're not a bot. So your outreach and your activity, and if you ever post and do activity on that, then it'll get you better reach because they know that you're not a bot if you get verified. And then third, if you go on the mobile app and you go to edit past your name, there is record your introduction. There is a 10-second recording that you can lay down to tell people who you are. So it's designed for you to pronounce your name in your own voice, but with a full 10 seconds, I tell people, ad lib a little bit. Tell them who you are, the company you represent, welcome them to your page, and anything you want to pack in that full 10 seconds, because the more people hear your voice, the more comfortable they're going to be with you. I just touched with this with Patrick because this is something they changed. Before, I used to like to turn off the current company and your education because LinkedIn used to have it. So if you had a big headline that it would stretch out across that entire box. Now it doesn't. So I'm telling people to turn that back on if that makes sense to everyone. But the headline is your most powerful SEO. So if you want to be found on that front page, for your products or services or your business or whatever you're offering out there, then you should get the keywords in that headline that people might type in for a description in a Google search to find you. So LinkedIn sales strategy, visibility, profile branding, those are all keywords for me that I've done the research, I've got the tools that will go out and find out what people are typing into Google to find people that offer my products and services. And that's what I want in there, along with a little description that kind of lays out what I do. You have up to 220 characters to maximize that. Here's your contact information. That's where I was talking about the business card. And to get that all in, you have up to 3 websites. So if you want a YouTube site, if you want to add your primary website as the first one, you also could add a calendar link in there, links to anywhere on your website that you want to direct people. So a lot of options there. Somebody may have also added a hyperlink. So LinkedIn used to have a hyperlink feature where you could go in and you could drop in a hyperlink and name it whatever you want. So if you've ever seen somebody that has something in blue right under your location, and you could do a click through, and it was a great thing when they had it, but they took it away. So if you have it, don't touch it because you'll lose it. And if you see it out there, just know that if you're like, I'd like to turn that on too, you can't anymore. So that's a feature they took away. If you were grandfathered in, you might still be, but they're going through and combing that out and taking that away from people. So, and if you do have a subscription, Sales Navigator, you can, is what I have, you can add a button to the bottom here, which will be a link right to any resource or website that you want to drive people to, which is nice on the button because as you post or comment, your little blurb of your image on there that button follows you. So any comment you make, any post you make, that button always follows you on, and I can show that to you later also. So that's the first 10 of the 308 areas and settings, your LinkedIn profile. So now there's only 298 left. So you can see there's a lot that goes on with a profile. And most people, the defaults that are the default settings are not there to help you. And most people don't really go past where I just covered. So, but I have maybe over 1,000 profiles, including in the upper right, Patrick's. So, I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to profiles, but I want to get into the ICP search. But before I jump into the ICP searching and building your list and targeting people, did anyone have any questions about the profile?
There was there was a comment in here, maybe it was a couple slides back, but I've been thinking about connections all wrong. My mindset was more Facebook friend level rather than that this is someone I want my content to connect with. Or I guess, Dr. Orman, somebody that you want to sell to. I mean, that is kind of the end goal here. And with your coaching, your books, your courses, and everything that you've got, at the end of the day, you are trying to sell something, and LinkedIn is very much different than Facebook. So, Chuck, maybe you can kind of weigh in
Yeah.
on that.
So, so LinkedIn is anyone that if you ever looked at the sidebars and said, or you've done just the go out of people I could connect to, it gives you like framework options. Like, here's people that are local to you. Here's people that are your peers. Here's people that, are in your industry or might be a good client. All those recommendations to other people and all the recommendations to you are all based on your activity and your current connections. So if you are responding to a lot of people in the hospitality space, and that's where all your connections are, and that's the content that you're attracting to, then LinkedIn picks up on that and they push more of that towards you. So the more strategic you can be in your actions, in your keywords, in your profile, it's all connected. So your activity is going to be more valuable on the platform if you start to build your network for the people that you want to do business with. And backing that by keywords and content and comments and likes and actions for people in that framework. So yeah, it definitely will help your feed. And me, I came from a technology sales background. So before, a lot of my points of contact were in IT. So when I went full LinkedIn training, I really didn't have like one very defined ICP anymore. It's kind of all across the board, but most of my network up until that point were all IT related. So it was a tough learning curve for me to get up to where I'm at now. So the first few years, it was a struggle to make new connections, to find the right people, and to do that. But as I continue to grow my network, it gets better every quarter. So, yeah. So, so how do you do that? You start by defining who these clients that you want are, and then doing your ICP search. So, going to that basic search box, type in any defining term to start. I went over these, before a little bit. But there's like a title. So it could be like a CXO, a vice president of something or other, a director of something or other, an owner, etc. Those are, typical titles. Defining words are going to be HR, technology, or agriculture, or nonprofit, or something along those lines. There's filters for geography, industry. You can add in organic keywords. And then the different connection levels. Do you want to look for people that you're not connected to make them a connection? Or do you want to start opening up conversations and maybe booking meetings with people that you're already connected to? So, you need to define if I want to focus on level one connections. I'm already connected, so I can already DM them any message. Let's do a campaign for that to start, booking meetings there. The Boolean search is the combination. I've got at the end here, I'll talk about Boolean search. I'll show you a chart. So, but Boolean filters is a search based on keywords and connectors. So the three primary ones are and, or, and not. and they have to be all uppercase. But you can also use quotations, parentheses, adds will add more granularity to your search. So here's kind of a cheat sheet, if you will. This was based on when I trained a large tech company. So these are IT related definers, but you'll get the point. So if it were and, that would mean that the two titles had to go hand in hand. So instead of CTO and director of IT, it might be I need somebody in, um, a certain medical specific area, and maybe I don't know, nonprofit or maybe for profit, maybe a clinic that's a for profit, or what your area is, and finding those defining terms of I need somebody of with this experience and this setup, then they have to have both. If it's or, it's like, oh, well, some of them are like the director, some of them are like the CEO, some of them are this. You can add or to, it doesn't matter which one it is as long as it hits one of these. And not would be where you're trying to bring something out, or like nullify something because you've done this list, and this certain person, a type of person, keeps popping up that's not an ideal fit. You can add not to whatever would define that person so they don't show up in that list. So once we start playing around with that and we look at the filters and we do that, in connecting, we want to know who to connect with, outreach best practices, crafted messages. I'll touch on a couple tools, depending on where you're at in your journey as far as, spending time in LinkedIn, that'll make things a little easier. So people connect with them. Existing clients, connect with them. Peers of the above, connect with them, because it's usually never one decision maker in any organization. So, kind of circle the wagons, if you will. People who like or comment, I mentioned before, low-hanging fruit. Those are usually easy people to connect with. People you share comments with. So it might just be you find that you and a couple other people are always commenting on this one person in your industry, or your field, page. So kind of look at who else is commenting on it, because if somebody might be a good client of yours and you're both commenting on the same person's post, then you might have shared interest. And then people who viewed your profile. If you have a subscription, you can see everyone. They usually give you one or two for free, but you can view who's looked at your profile if you have that. And then that's an easy reach out of, hey, I saw you drop by my profile and realized we weren't connected yet, so I wanted to change that. You don't have to pitch. You don't have to ask for any commitment out of them. And certainly don't circle back with a big, huge, presentation and let me sell you something kind of thing. But, you know, people are curious. So the more passive you are, the more they tend to lean in. Okay. Connect basics, outreach, keep it casual. Most of the outreach is going to be in a DM. So a DM is just like a text message, essentially. Keep it casual, keep it short. Uh, find common interest that might spark a conversation. Say how you found them. There might be a reason specifically why you're reaching out. You're involved with a similar project in a similar industry at a similar, opportunity or whatever. Say why you're connecting, be open and honest to a certain extent, and drop us the sales pitch. Don't make people uncomfortable because you're just networking and trying to get to know who these people are. And if you can add value, great. If there's something that you can bring to the table, then that's going to make it more likely for them to lean in. And then be yourself as much as possible, because people can smell fake a mile away. So crafted message, craft a repeatable message. So if you are organically going out every single time and creating a message from scratch, it's going to become labor intensive, and you're going to get burned out pretty quick. So um, I had I shot out a couple of messages as far as how I respond to people that looked at my profile or commented or liked on a post. So I know that message by heart because I save it in a tool that I'll share with you here in a minute. So I never get the wrong message. Determine your time frames to reach out. So don't make this like just an ongoing, you're always logging into the app. I mean, I can do that because this is my business and that's what I do. I pretty much live in LinkedIn all day, every day. But for you, you have a day job and it's not to be a part-time LinkedIn, pro and go out there all the time, but block off a little bit of time in your, maybe it's half hour at the beginning of the week and half hour at the end of the week where you can kind of go in, kind of go through the feed, kind of send out a couple connection requests, maybe drop a post. And that's if you get in the habit of having these time frames where you're going to reach out, it'll make it easier to keep that schedule. If no luck connecting, you can always follow people, find a repeatable system to save time. And some of the tools that I use chat. I use a lot of different chats, but mostly GPT is my go-to, but there's a lot of other AIs if you're more comfortable with the others out there. But auto text expander is huge. So when I was referring to a tool to make it easy, Text Blaze is my go-to that I use, where I can put in any keyword and it'll type out my whole message wherever I am. So I can be on my phone, I can be in my email, I can be in a DM on LinkedIn, but I can type in like 2 words and it'll type out an entire message that I have pre-crafted in there. So it's a huge time saver. It's already spell checked. It's already, set up, ready to go. And all I have to do typically is add in their first name. And I want to do that and I want to do it manually. I don't want this to be automated because AI is riddled with potential errors, and people put in things like emojis and different titles and things like that, and it's obvious if it's too canned of a automated message. So I want to get into some live here. So I'm going to just really quickly go through posting best practices, but basically if you take a video or you have a picture or something, you can put that up. You can put up a document. But if you want the basics of a photo and to type in a message, you can put that right in the main bar of the main page, or you can even write an article. But when you go actually click into it, then it gives you a lot more options. So you still have the media, which is a photo or uploading a video, but you can also create an event. So if you have an event that you are hosting, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a in person, definitely create an event in here to promote it. You can share it with connections. You can use it in a post. There's a lot of things you can do with creating an event. Celebrate an occasion if you have an anniversary, if you got a new certification, if there's anything along those lines that you want to promote, it's a great way to create a post through that. You can share that you're hiring. You can create a poll if you want to know what people's opinions are about something. You can add a document. This would be where you need to go if you're uploading like a PDF, or you can find an expert in a certain field if you want to do that. But post to your personal page, post and comment to other pages, post to your company page. So if you haven't created a company page yet, I highly recommend it because you can play them off one another. You can straight up advertise and sell on the business page and then share it on your personal page and put so you don't have to sell through your personal side. Post to groups and then share posts in the featured section. So, and nurturing your network, like I said, just find time to schedule consistency. So continue to define your ICP, craft repeatable messages, implement process, and just be consistent. That's it. Um, so yeah, let me know what questions you have. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I won't pitch you, I promise. But I'm happy to visit, answer any questions. I can, with the time left, I can jump in and show anyone anything if you want me to do some live stuff, just let me know.
Brad and Teresa, do y'all have any questions? Is there anything that y'all want to dive into? I've got one or two, but I want you guys to have an opportunity here.
No, I mean, I'm I just feel like I've learned so much. Like our colleague, I think that I've been approaching LinkedIn completely incorrectly, and using it more like Facebook. And obviously, each social media platform has its own sort of palette of uses, and I've clearly not been approaching LinkedIn the way that I should be in order to um, promote what I'm doing professionally. So I will certainly reach out to you, Chuck. But the idea of, like, so I have a consulting LLC that does not have its own page. I'm actually just working on the website now. So I feel like once I get the website up, which allows someone to evaluate exactly, what I do and the type of consulting that I do, um, it would be appropriate to have, I feel like I have to have the website up in order to have a LinkedIn page specific to it. Would that be your recommendation?
Yeah. Anytime someone comes to me to optimize their profile, even, I say, make sure that you are happy with your website. So, like when we come in and we optimize somebody's profile, which is kind of like the first step, we do market research, and part of that market research isn't just looking at the industry and your competitors, it's also scraping the information off your website. So if your website's not, well, if it doesn't exist at all, then we can't. And that's really,
Right,
we really want to align uh
right.
that that branding message. So yeah, I get that dialed in and we're good.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. I actually have to jump to get ready for my next, but this is wonderful. And Patrick, you recorded this, correct?
Yes, it'll be recorded. We'll put the replay inside of ShiftChange. And Teresa, I would encourage you to set up a call with Chuck.
Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where the investment is worth it, and you can spend 30 hours of your own time or work with somebody like Chuck to go through this with an expert's touch, and it's very much worth the investment.
I would agree from what I can see here. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Chuck. Thank you,
Okay.
Patrick. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Take good care.
I did have a question also.
Sure.
Um, so I think I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. And there's some people I'm connected with that they post stuff, it seems like 3 times a day. And when I see a new post, it's like, oh my God, just stop already. And I really don't even look at their post. And then there's some guys that post maybe 3, maybe 4 times a week, and it's like, cool, this. So where's the sweet spot as far as posting? How many posts per week, or is there a
Yeah,
sweet spot
it's
for that?
it LinkedIn's like a muscle is how I describe it to a lot of people. So it's like, for instance, if you're not sending out regular connection requests, you can probably only send out 60 a week, is about max. But if you're doing it week after week after week, that number increases. LinkedIn lets me invite about 180 a week right now as my run rate. And with posting, it's the same thing like with reach. So if you're a new connection and there's a lot of alignment with that new connection, meaning same geography, same industry, a lot of mutual connections, that sort of thing, then at the beginning it will show you every post in your feed. But every time an individual posts, it only gets out to about 10% of their network in the first hour, and LinkedIn says, how well is it doing? And if it does bad, it won't get out to your entire network. So it they say that's to mitigate risk in case anyone puts out anything that's offensive, but ultimately, they're a social media company that wants people to be interested and to stay here and to love the content. So I think they're burying what they think is boring. So regardless, and maybe it's a little of both, but if you're seeing somebody's post like every single time that they post, then that's because you have a lot of alignment with that person or you clicked their bell. So I don't know if you're familiar. I can do a quick share screen on an example of that, but here's Patrick. So if you see a profile that it looks like you're seeing a lot of their activity, if you see the regular bell like
Mhm.
that, then what that means is you're only going to see the most relevant content. So I don't see every single one of Patrick's uh, posts that he puts out unless it reaches a certain threshold because we're not in the same geography. We have over 60 mutual connections and we've been connected for a while, but we're not in the same industry. We don't regularly engage each other on a regular basis. So if his content's driving me crazy, I can click off and then I'm not going to see his content, but I'm still connected with him. But if I want to
Okay.
see every post, I can click all and I
Hmm.
can save that. And now you'll see that double bell show up. So you might just look at what your setting is. If you're seeing every
Okay.
single post from that person and they're annoying you, then you can click that off there. Um,
Okay.
and if you do notice that it's all that they said, oh, ring my bell, and you click on it and we're familiar with that, then that's probably why you're seeing every single
Okay.
one because you're telling LinkedIn to see everyone. But
Gotcha. Okay.
and
Cool.
then if
Thank you.
it's just somebody in general, if you can go in to anyone and if you drop a couple not interesteds on somebody's regular posts, you can do that, or you can completely unfollow them. And those are two other ways to kind of put the mute on them if you'd like.
So you can stay connected with them, but you just unfollow them so that their stuff doesn't show up.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to see your content anymore. It
Mhm.
doesn't serve me. And not only does that take that out of your feed, but that also helps nurture your network. Because, like I said before, by you letting LinkedIn know that you are not interested in that particular subject matter or person or industry or content, so it's like I turn off there's a setting in there that you can turn off. I don't want to hear anything about politics. I don't care what side you stand on. That's not what I want to come to LinkedIn for. You can actually go into your settings and turn that off. So they know, oh, well, I'm not going to drop this political ad in Chuck's feed. If somebody's, posting an opinion on that that's not going to reach Chuck's feed unless it gets like a certain caliber. So
And if you unfollow somebody, they don't get any type of message saying, Brad just unfollowed you or anything like that, correct?
So I guess they could go in and they can say, "Who are my followers?" and then look for you, and they would see. But that would
I
take.
mean, if you had 10 people, I mean, if they're used to hearing and seeing from you, it depends on how well you know them. I mean, if I unfollowed my brother, he'd figure it out, So, but it just depends on. Hey, he'd be like, what gives? I was looking for you and I couldn't find you. But you can go in and totally block someone. Now, if you block somebody, and that's another option. Ooh, here, I'll share. So, so if you go into a profile and I'm not going to follow through with this, but you can totally block someone, and then not only will they be shut out, but they can't even find you. So if I blocked Patrick, he not only wouldn't be a connection of mine, he couldn't see me. He couldn't even go into LinkedIn and type in Chuck Shaver CS Sales Consulting and find me. I'm a ghost to him. So if it's somebody that you're like, I don't want any backlash, but I don't know who this person is, kind of thing,
Okay.
then you can go hardcore and completely, you know,
Lock 'em.
ghost them from you. So
Interesting. Okay.
Chuck, I had one quick question. I've heard just like over the last week or two, like with the outreach and just how much effort that can take, the cold outreach. There's some program or platform called Manus that can actually go in, and as of right now, that is allowed. Some people have said, "Oh, well, it may get taken away, we may not be able to use it." What are your thoughts on Manus?
the hard cold rules of LinkedIn is any software automation is against their laws and they do not support it. And if you get
Okay,
caught using it, they'll close your account.
really?
So that's always been the steadfast rule. I know a lot of people say, oh, we're approved this and we're approved that. You hear that a lot from mostly content delivery services, like say a Hootsuite or something. But LinkedIn does punish that. If I so and I do run a full management service. So I have people that will basically do that for you with real humans,
Okay.
which is acceptable, is something that LinkedIn, I wouldn't say they support, but they understand that the bigger you are, the more likely you're going to have maybe an in-house marketing assistant or somebody
Hmm.
helping you manage your account and putting content out and things of that nature. So
Hmm.
they're not against other people logging into your account and helping you with your account if it's a real human. They just
Hmm.
don't want software automation.
Okay.
And the problem with that is if you're doing outreach campaign with messaging, a lot of times it'll be, hey, my message is, hey, first name, thanks for doing this and appreciate that and let me know this, that, or the other. Well, if that first name it grabs, if somebody decides to put, you know, Dr. O'Malley and BMF of services and they put all that in the first name because that's what it's going to grab is
Hmm.
whatever you put in there, then it's an obvious tell that this is, not a real human doing that. So to have that real human in place uh, can sit there and say, "Oh, you've already had a conversation with this person. Oh, you have an appointment in 3 weeks with this person. So if I go in with some generic message, it's going to totally throw them off and we're already booked for a meeting or that title is wrong or whatever. So it's just riddled with too many potential errors that will come back to haunt you. So I am against any automation.
Okay.
I have to be because if I get shut
Yeah.
down, I'm
You're
screwed.
done. You're
Yeah.
done. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
So
right. Well, Chuck, this has been super helpful. Much appreciated.